Welcome back. It's important not to forget this conference in Annapolis was not about three leaders. It was really about millions of people, Israelis, Palestinians and more besides, those who'll have to live with whatever the legacy of Annapolis ends up being. We've been speaking to Palestinians and Israelis, getting their thoughts on the Annapolis conference. This is what they had to say.
I'm not very optimistic, just like the rest of the Palestinian people, because the history proved that this is just a circle. It goes on and on and on without any results. So I'm not very optimistic at all. I don't think anything will happen, especially in the near future.
Still, this meeting was not create the fundamentals of the issue of the meeting, like settlement, refugees, negotiation about the east and the west Jerusalem, and the waters, and many other important issues for the Palestinian. This meeting also will help to solve the Middle East problems as a part of the violence in all over the world.
So we're ready now, and we're just waiting the Israelis and what they are going to present for the Palestinians. Are they going to confess the Palestinians to get back our rights? I mean, to confess the resolutions of the United Nations to end this conflict. The Israeli side is the only one who can make this peace.
This conference doesn't serve the Palestinians' interest, because at first we have to unify ourselves and to solve the problems between the two parties here, Fatah and Hamas, on the both governments, the Gaza and the West Bank, then going to an international conference.
I think they've agreed to talk many times, and the question is to talk about what? It looks like what they just want to talk about is giving away more of the land of Israel to Palestinians, allow more terror, allow more murderers to come in, bring back who knows how many people from all over the world just to cause more problems. And I don't see anything positive about the talks that they're talking at this time.
On the long-term basis, though, I believe that though everything looks very bleak and pessimistic today, I do really believe that we are going towards closing of these positions, for a very simple fact that the Israelis become more and more Arabic, if you like, in everything, and the Palestinians probably become also more Israeli in a way, and will soon probably share this land together in a kind of a mixture where everyone is a little of everything.
So the views there of some of the everyday people. Let's go back to the views of our guests. Our panel, still in Washington, D.C., Ambassador Philip Wilcox, President of the Foundation for Middle East Peace and the former Chief of Mission and US Consul General in Jerusalem. In London, Abdul Bari Atwan, Editor-in-Chief of the London-based pan-Arab newspaper Al-Quds Al-Arabi. And in Jerusalem, Gil Hoffman, the Chief Political Correspondent and Analyst for the Jerusalem Post. Welcome back, gentlemen. I'm going to go straight back to Washington at this point to Ambassador Wilcox. As I said before the break, I want to focus in on the two men, Abbas and Olmert. In your opinion, are they the right men to do this? 7 years ago, Ehud Barak and Yasser Arafat couldn't get anywhere. These two men are, some might say, weaker than those two men. Can they do it?
I think they can do it with the right support. These two leaders are pragmatists. They both understand that the only acceptable outcome are two independent states, a viable Palestinian state, an end to most of the settlements, a safe and secure democratic Israel. They understand that their futures are interdependent and that they need each other. The problem is they are weak leaders. They are hostages to extremist political elements on both sides. Neither the Israeli political system nor the Palestinian system have proved to be very functional in making peace. Again, I want to stress that they need help, and that help is going to have to come from the international community and from the United States and from the Arab world.
Gil Hoffman, in Jerusalem, I want to ask you about Ehud Olmert at this point. Again, quoting what he said in his speech, talking of painful compromises, rife with risks. Just give us an idea of how that's actually going down in Israel at the moment.
Well, Ehud Olmert is not the most popular leader Israel's had by any means. He has a very low approval rating, but parliamentarily he has a relatively stable government, and he doesn't have to worry about there being an election anytime soon, which would really mean that he can deliver. However, with the people, it's going to be a tough sell. They know that if an agreement is reached with the Palestinians, that about 80,000 Jews are going to have to leave their homes in the West Bank. Unlike what the gentleman in London said before, no Arab will have to leave his home in Israel. Israel's a democracy. Israeli Arabs here have the right to vote. But a Palestinian state will be created in the West Bank that will probably be controlled by Hamas, and women won't be able to drive, and homosexuals will be executed in the streets. And that's going to be tough to sell to Israelis, but 14 years ago, there was support for making a deal with Yasser Arafat, a Palestinian leader who had the way but not the will. And now it's definitely better to have Abu Mazen, a Palestinian leader who has the will but not the way.
Just briefly, Mr. Hoffman, before I go back to London, you mentioned Ehud Olmert's declining popularity. Very briefly, are you confident he will even be here in 12 months' time in his position to see this through?
Definitely. Look, this process is going to take a year, the negotiations. During that time, none of the parties in his government have any real reason to leave it. He really bought himself a year yesterday in Annapolis, and during that year anything can happen. At the end of that year there probably will be an election, and he'll take his plan to the people and may very well emerge victorious.
Abdul Bari Atwan in London, let me ask you about Abu Mazen, Mahmoud Abbas. He, in his speech, spoke of quite strongly of a pre-Annapolis era and now a post-Annapolis era. He seems to be putting a lot into this. Is that his true belief that this can work, or is it the desperation of a man who hasn't really got control over all his people?
I believe the man is very desperate. He's very weak. He put all his eggs on the American basket. We know Americans are biased broker toward the Israelis, so the man is in an extremely difficult position. The Israelis did not help him. They talk about him as a partner, but when it comes to the grounds, actually, they failed him completely. He asked to remove about 500 roadblocks, which make the life of 2 million Palestinians in the West Bank extremely miserable. He asked to release a sizable amount of Palestinian prisoners in the Israeli jails. The Israelis were very, very reluctant to do so. He is actually in a very difficult position. He needs something on the ground before he went to actually Annapolis, but the Israeli failed him completely and embarrassed him. When
Mr.
you talk
Abdul,
about final...
Mr. Abdul, sorry,
yes.
I want to get in one quick question to you before I have to go to Ambassador Wilcox finally in Washington. I need to ask you about Hamas here. Does President Abbas dare try to engage Hamas at any point, just briefly?
You know, Mahmoud Abbas would like to engage Hamas, but the problem, the American and the Israelis said to him clearly, if you want to talk to us, there is a veto in any talking to Hamas. Choose between us or Hamas. So he chose the American and the Israeli, and he is not allowed to talk to Hamas. But the problem is, you know, there is a very important point here. Even if Abbas reach a settlement with the Israeli, he wouldn't be able to sell it to the Palestinian people, because the Palestinian people are radicalized, because they don't trust the Israeli that they will commit themselves to these peace deals. They were stung before, and also because they are divided, and Hamas has a legitimacy among the Palestinians through election, through ballot boxes. So I believe Mr. Abbas' position not only weak, but also he is too weak to sell any peace deal to the Palestinian, especially if there is no right of return, especially if there is no Jerusalem as the capital of the future Palestinian state.
Final word to Ambassador Wilcox in Washington. Annapolis was only ever going to be a launching platform. Did it succeed in that role, Ambassador? 30 seconds.
We don't know, but it has laid a foundation for a new start. It all depends upon the will of the parties to follow through and do the right thing, and that includes the President of the United States. I agree that the division within the Palestinians is a mistake. The United States, the European Union, should encourage Palestinian unification rather than sustain division, because that will ultimately cripple or destroy the process. There also must be major and rapid changes on the ground in the West Bank in the form of economic improvement and a settlement freeze.
Ambassador, I'm sorry, we will have to leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining us at Inside Story. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back again next time. Do stay with us.